Hi, I'm Learned Man, the host of the Kynd Podcast. Listen, where Kynd is spelled Kynd, and the Y stands for you. Two quick non-negotiables on the Kynd Podcast. One, be kind to yourself, and two, be kind to others. Today, I'm airing my interview with the Mr. Marcus Bridgewater, the author of See Marcus Grow. Now, I got to tell you, the interview was amazing, and we actually conducted the interview here in South Florida at the African American Research Library. And let me tell you, well, there was so much excitement, so much engagement. We broke the interview up into two parts. Let's jump right into part one, and also part two will follow. Once again, thank you for tuning in to the Kynd Podcast. I'm your host, Learned Man.
Good.
If I may, join me in an exercise as we get ready to start this. I start all my presentations this way, and I would love to start our conference this way. Okay, so we're going to breathe together. All right? We're going to breathe in for 3 seconds. We're going to hold that for 5 seconds, and then we're going to breathe out for 6 seconds. Breathe with me. Breathe in. Hold it. And breathe out. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. That was incredible. So we have some like-minded. I was going to do something similar, so thank you, sir, for being here. So give him a clap and clap for similarities here. So what I do want to do, we're going to have a conversation, and I want us to feel really good, like you're right here, up here with us. And that's the beauty of it. We want you right here, almost like when we were with the kids and they were sitting in front and reading to them. That's how we want this audience to feel right in front of us. So as we speak, we just want you to think of one thing that you can learn new about yourself from this experience today. So as Marcus is responding, think about yourself also and the people that are around you and learn one thing new about yourself. So say it with me. I will learn one new thing about me. All right, give yourself a hand clap. All right, thank you so much for this opportunity. Friendships really matter, and thank you, Marcus, for dedicating your life to what you've been doing because it's impacting so many people. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna just jump right in here and go to my first amazing question, which is really about you. How have you been shaped by your life experiences? What has really shaped you?
I've been shaped in so many ways by challenge. And as a child, I was met with lots of challenges, both in health and in just my circumstances. And those things pushed me to either excel and find ways to adapt so that I could grow, or I would wind up suffering and stunting my growth. And I saw so much stunting around me, I did not want to participate or follow in the same tracks.
I like that. And then I did it that way because now I want you to tell us where you're from.
I'm from north of Orlando, a place called Zellwood, Apopka area, and I was adopted into a family. Me and my mother were adopted into a family, and I know that's rather unique, but she had come from St. Kitts with nothing, and I was born in Orlando. And in her travels, which were very difficult because she was asked to come here on some friends' encouragement, and it didn't pan out the way they had said it would. She worked really hard to find a way, and she's not one to smooch or to take very much. She doesn't, and I learned that from her. And so we found ourselves in this family in Florida, and I was regularly the odd man out because my mom had an accent, and I had grown up with that accent. My grandma had a completely different one, and I was learning that one. And when I went to school, I was in the gifted classes, and no one looked like me in those classes, and they spoke a different way. And so everywhere I went, everyone spoke differently, and I was constantly trying to find the in-between. And as readers, the last thing I'll share about that is hooked on phonics was a big thing when I was a kid. And they would say say it phonetically. But how do you do that when everywhere you go, everyone's saying it differently? And so, although I was an early reader, when I was met with that stringent way of teaching, it broke me away from reading and actually made it very difficult.
That makes sense. Listen, the vulnerability is awesome because that's what people learn from, and it's all about growing.
It is.
We learn, we grow, we experience, we navigate, and we end up right here in that chair next to you, where many people are watching you. So how powerful and impactful. So we know you have this little bit of love for gardening, just a little bit. Tell me a little bit about how that started. Where did you learn that, and what does it really mean to you?
Oh man, okay, so I was fortunate that the woman who brought me into her family, shout out to Pearl Mason and the Masons, she had a garden and it was beautiful and it had massive kumquat trees and hibiscus trees, orange trees, so many different types of plants. It was just a beautiful space to grow up in. Her backyard was acres and acres of wild woods. So, there were gators out there and rattlesnakes and turtles and gophers and all the things that little boys would enjoy chasing and having fun. So that was my initial love for nature. But I grew up in a time where Orlando started to get bigger. And as Orlando got bigger and it began to absorb Apopka and all of those things began to change the area, crime came with it. And my little town, which was a country town, became more and more violent as drugs and the like came into town. And so
that makes sense. I just, you said little boy chasing gators and spiders and all. Have you ever been by a snake or anything?
No, we came real close though. I mean, like real close. Taught you good reflexes though, I tell you. I'm trying to make sure I remember the question. What was the question again?
Oh, I just asked you about, have you been bit by, you answered the first question.
Oh, no, the first question was about the plants. And so then, later on in life, I found myself away from nature and working in the corporate world. And it wasn't until my oldest friend's mom gifted me some plants and I went down that journey that I found myself here.
So back to that, all those lessons that you've learned, how has that shown up in your writing today? When you're writing and you're sharing and you're actually impacting the nation, the world, when you think about it, how has those lessons shown up in your writing today?
Okay, they've shown up all over the place. They've shown up in the subtext. They've shown up in the things that you don't see me say, right? If you look through all of my writing, you'll never see me refer to race. Because so much of my experience is universal. And I want it to be appreciated by the people who look like me and have struggled like me, but I also want it to be appreciated by the people who don't. And so I tried to make sure that because, again, I grew up on the outside of everyone's circle. Everyone's circle. There was never a time where I had a safe space. I have to say that because we try to create these safe spaces, and I think that oftentimes what we are doing is actually creating coddle clubs. And we don't realize that that's not progressive, right? That's actually destructive, counterproductive. And in my effort to be productive and also to create true community, everything I write about is undertone about peace, balance, harmony, resilience, and the importance of community and the environment.
I think we need to clap for that because that's a whole segment that we can sit up here and talk about all day long. So we know you were in Florida, you relocated to Texas. So that first shift from Florida to Texas, tell me a little bit about, so you told us you were in Florida, we know you got chased by the alligators, but not really. And you went to Texas. What part of Texas were you in, and how did you just jump right into the plant experience in Texas?
Okay, so many things happened between Florida and Texas. I'll give you the short, condensed version. Okay, so From Florida, I went to college in North Carolina. Graduated, and then went to work in Chicago. From Chicago, went to work as a director and strategic manager of importing, exporting in Boston. From Boston, worked there for many years before I came back to Florida. Worked as an independent contractor. And then as an independent contractor, I was, one of my main clients was a monastery in Boston, and I was there as a spiritual liaison. I went from there, working around the world until my mom got hurt, and a buddy of mine called me within a month of that same time and said, hey, please come to Aspen, help us as the technical director of the Aspen Opera. So I came to Aspen, I was working there so that I could have something more consistent, so I could help my mom. And shortly after that, I got a call from a private preparatory in Texas. And I had never been to Texas. Me and my buddy were having some really intricate pranks that we were doing, and so I thought it was him pranking me, but it was not a prank. I followed through on that lead, ended up getting brought to Texas to be a technical director, got promoted to be the administrator and building supervisor of that building. And so when I went to Texas, my thought was I was going to be working a more 9-to-5 consistent job. I could help my mother, and it would be 40 to 50 hours a week. Well, after I got promoted, it went to 65, and then I got promoted again the next year, and it went to 90. And I was working all the time. I sacrificed, because of what I was doing, I was running a space that was about 7 times the size of this room. And I took it very seriously. I was changing the dynamics. I was in control of all of the engineering. So all of that was a lot of pressure on my shoulders. And I say all of that because I didn't go to my grandpa's funeral. I stayed to engineer the things to make sure they were safe. And I think about that all the time because I sacrificed so much of my own person for the students. And I took my job so seriously because safety and lives were involved and teaching the future. But a counter to that was I was giving so much of myself that I was losing myself. I was constantly being told, hey, your 50% is better than a lot of people's 100%. But I'm watching my 50% turn to 40% so quickly. It wasn't until my oldest friend's mom, right? I call her my plant mom. She owned a nursery in Florida here in Apopka, and she was closing that after 40 years. And she gifted me plants as a housewarming gift. And I had bought my first house. I'm working this job, and it was a revolutionary thing for me to be settled down. I spent more than 15 years just traveling and never being anywhere for more than 4 or 5 months at a time, longest. So that transition got me wanting to have life around me. And I kept coming home after work, 90 hours, and it was empty, just me and the walls. And I really wanted to fill that with more life. And so got those plants there, felt great about it, and did not know much about plants at the time. Closed all the windows, closed all the blinds, and kept watering them every day. Within a couple months, more than half of them were dead, and I was devastated. And I was telling this to the crew the other day, I named those plants. I named them after people who were important to me in my life. I would come home and be like, hey, Mother Don, hey, how you doing? I love you. I haven't seen you in a while, just have that energy. So when I lost them for the second time, it was heartbreaking, quite literally. And I was like, what did I do to myself? So that's why I don't name plants, just so you know.
They're just all beautiful.
Yeah, they're all beautiful.
And just beautiful. Hey, beautiful. Hey, beautiful. You're great. There's always beautiful people in the world, so they can always be a reminder of the plant. So you developed this journal that people can utilize, and I am also an advocate for mental health and things along those lines. It's a part of my platform what I talk a lot about, and it's also all those things play into. So talk to us a little bit about having this journal and being able to journal and identify how is it related to mental health and our overall wellness.
It's so important. I don't know that I would be here having this conversation with you, and that I, as a young boy, would have made it through my journey had I not found writing to myself. I've been writing letters to myself for 30-something years, and it is in those letters that we have found triumph and that we have spoken peace to the universe that I couldn't speak to somewhere else. We're all going through a lot of things all the time. And there's a thing called decision fatigue, which is you can only make so many good decisions in a day before you're actually tired, quite literally. And making decisions takes actual energy. So when you think about all those children out there who are in really poor neighborhoods and poor situations, give them a little wee bit of grace for the fact that they've had to already make so many decisions. By the time they're in their afternoon, good chance is they'll make a bad one. Right? And so I just want you to think about that. And so the thing is, journaling helped me maintain my consciousness of my decision making. And so we have so much going on here. There is so much data here. If you're not actually putting that somewhere, you don't realize you're not thinking clearly. And I found that out early on because I would journal my dreams and get them out of my head. They were very intense for me as a young man. And so I made sure that they weren't weighing on me daily. I would write them down and get them out. But in doing so, I started to realize many of us are thinking in words, okay? But we have not stopped to address those words. And so how do you know when your dialogue has become, your internal dialogue has become toxic and is spiraling? Well, so often you don't know unless you actually stop and can look at it and give yourself the juxtaposition of that information. And so I encourage people all the time to journal and to journal in different ways. And that's part of the reason why I wrote the journal, because trees are such an incredible symbol of growth, and trees are going through changes year round. And so I link the mind, the body, and the spirit to a tree's leaves, trunk, and roots, so that we can think about all the parts of ourselves, but also see how they come together holistically. But then think about the fact that the entirety of ourselves is going through changes all year. Are you changing your routine throughout the year? Many of us aren't. Many of us are just doing the same thing all the time, and then we expect growth, but that's not how growth works. So.
It's not, and what's beautiful about the start of it is you required us to breathe, right, to bring us back here. And then in addition to that, we're going to learn something new about ourselves. So this becomes a part of the village that goes out and shares. So that's the beautiful thing about it. And these type of events, these type of conversations, it forces us to share. And, you know, this is the good part about it. It's almost like nobody's out there, because we could just talk about this, but everybody's out there so they can share the message. Now listen, a little research now brought back some stuff that people like to compare you to Mr. Rogers, Bob Ross, and Levi Burton. So how does that make you feel now? That has to be like, oh, I did this thing, right? Is that how it feels, like I've done a really great thing?
Yes, it's humbling to the highest degree. It is an incredible honor to be put into the likeness of those gentlemen, and to think about their effect on my life and on the lives of my peers. I'm utterly humbled by such a thing. I'm also charged by it and given a sense of duty. I'm recognized all over the place now, and I have a responsibility of sorts. And so when you remind me of that, it's like, oh man, the badge is on. I can't see where the badge is exactly, so I can polish it, but like the badge is on, and I have to carry the badge with a degree of integrity and honor.
So something you said stimulated a thought. One of my favorite books in there is a quote that says, the universe conspires to work in your favor, not against you. And that's from The Alchemist. When you think about the universe, because I appreciate you being here today, tell us a little bit about what does that mean to you that the universe conspires to work in your favor?
Oh man, okay, so we're about to get deep, everybody buckle up, all right? So, I just talked about words, but I'm about to give you like a whole crash course of like why this matters so much to me. Okay, so I want you for a moment, everybody, right now, silently, in your mind, to make this sound. Now make that sound in your head. Now I want you for a moment to recognize that that sound, right, was a vibration. And each one of us has a very unique pitch, a very unique frequency that we are carrying, our own tone. And much like chords, right, when notes are pure,